Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Our wooden raised beds are starting to rot. Today we're going to replace the walls with concrete block. Also, there are a lot of gardening myths. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Peter Richards. Peter is our local gardener, and Carol Reese will be joining me later. Hi, Peter. What will we be doing today?
Well, 6 or 7 years ago, we built these wooden raised beds.
Okay.
And as wood wants to do, it rotted.
It rots.
So the advantage of the wood bed was that it was much less expensive, but we're going to go for more permanent solution this time.
Okay.
So we're going to do concrete block. Also, while we're doing that, we're going to make the bed a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So the boards that are in it now are 8 feet long, and so the actual bed itself is 2 times the width of the board narrower.
Gotcha.
And so we're going to expand it out so the bed is actually 4 feet by 8 feet, since the concrete block gives us a little bit of wiggle room there. Okay. So let's go ahead and start taking it apart.
All right, let's take it apart. Got it. Yep.
It's a good idea to water the bed before you do that, because that'll help the dirt all stick, and you'll see that it maintains the wall, and we're just going to build the wall around what's already there. So now that we've got the wood out, you can see the soil we have here, and the way that this bed was built is to help with drainage. There's a lot of gravel here, which we're going to end up reusing. So these are the blocks we're going to use, but as you notice, they're a lot wider than the trench from the wood.
Right.
So we need to widen this out a little bit. We're going to lay out the corners, and then we're going to just dig a wider trench.
Okay.
We're going to reuse the gravel base just for drainage. If
Okay.
you're doing concrete block and you don't want this to be super permanent, you can skip the gravel layer, but you do need a flat surface to work on.
Gotcha.
Now we're going to stretch a string around the 4 posts that we put in, and the reason for this is that we can level the string, and then we know that we're level underneath. I have a string level. You hang it on the middle of the string, and then you can adjust the string up and down and see if it's level.
Pretty neat.
Okay, now I'm showing that your end is high. You don't have to have a string level to do this. Tap it again. You could just do it with a regular straight level. One more time. One more tiny tap. Okay, there we are.
Good.
So now that tells us that this string from nail to nail is level. So now we're going to go ahead and do that on
Back to that.
all the other ones as well. Stop. There we go. That's good. Okay, so now that our string is level, we're going to start putting down our blocks. And this is the longest and most frustrating part of this whole thing because this first level has to be flat or level. Once the first layer is level, then you can just throw blocks on top of it and they're already level. Right. So that's good. So what we're going to do is, here's our first one. Okay. And just looking at the string has a lot more space down there between the rocks and the string than it does right here. So that just means that we're going to have to dig this out, and we're going to try and put our first level at the same, so that the top of this block is at the top is at the string. Gotcha. So we still need to go down a little bit. And we may have to dig out here and put some gravel back in. Okay, let's try this one. Oh, we're getting close. About 1/8 of an inch high. Now, we're using these concrete blocks. You can use cinder block, you can use any other brick, anything like that. Just the same idea. You just have to get that first level straight. And okay, so our block is level, or close enough.
Close.
And we're at the top of the string here. So this first block we're going to say is laid at this point. So now we move on to the second one.
Wow.
And I can see obviously it's tall, or it's high, so dig some out in the second block. Okay, well, I'm gonna need some more over here to level it, and the whole thing is high, mainly it right here. Oh, try it again. Okay, so that one looks good. Let's see how we're doing here. It is just a little bit higher than this block here. It's a little rocking, so let's tap it down in a little more. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Now onto the third block. We put down the gravel bed mainly because it was already there from the previous one. You know, if you just have level ground and you don't want this to last a long time, you know, you're willing to come out and fuss with re-leveling the blocks every couple years because it might have settled or something like that. You can just do this on bare dirt, but you do need to make it level.
Gotcha.
And you don't want to have the block touch the string because then it'll push the string one direction or another. Also, if you're going any taller than probably about a foot to a foot and a half, you're going to want to put it on a gravel base, because at that point, you know, if you were out there working in your garden and the wall fell over, it could hurt you pretty bad.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we've done most of this edge. We're getting close to the corner here. And so let's put this block in. This will be the last block facing this direction, and check to see if it's level here. Okay, we're pretty good, but it seems like we're a little low in the front. So what you can do is you can just lift up the corner of the block and kind of just pound some gravel under it so you don't have to actually take it all the way out. And okay, so for the corner here, what we're going to do is we're going to start, because I don't have enough space here for another full block, I'll just turn it and start the next wall right here. We'll just continue to level here, and whoops, sorry about that, and keep going. Okay, so now let's check it.
See how good you are.
That's good.
All right.
At the corners, if you're, you can kind of go like this and get an idea several blocks long. So the first row is done. That's the hardest part, because once this is all level, now all we have to do is just stack the blocks up.
Stack.
This is easy. So now all we do is we're just going to take it, put the block on top, offset it by half, and just go around. And we just have to go around 2 more times. We'll be at 12 inches. So if you want to grab some, and with stacking the blocks, you got to look, because the different blocks that you use will have a recommended maximum stacking height. In this case, they give 12 inches, so that's 3 tall. That's what we're doing, because that's how tall the beds are anyway. Others, you can go higher. If you want to go higher than that, you have to start getting into engineering it. Most places, if you go higher than 3 feet, you actually need to have a permit and have it inspected, because there's a lot of pressure back there. You know, if you have a lot of wet soil, you got thousands of pounds of pressure pushing against that wall. You have to be careful. Here we have a problem that you might run into. There's a hole that needs to be filled, but it's too big for a block the normal way. So there's a couple ways you can fix this. So you could either put a block in sideways like this, which works. You might not like the fact that it's not broken like this face is. Or if you want to, you could go ahead and take the rest of the blocks in this, on this side, and put a little bit of a gap between them, kind of like that. What you're going to do is pretty much up to you and what you want to see. I'm going to go ahead and put it in sideways. If this were a longer side, I might space them out, but since there's only 5 blocks here, it's going to be big gaps that you're going to have dirt leaking out through. So you got the last couple. I'll let you do the honors.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Yep. There we go. Now we got a little bit of gap, so
Yeah,
just
a little
scoot the last couple blocks and kind of divide that gap between a couple of blocks. Okay, good. We're done with the structure.
Yeah.
We have to clean up our dirt here that's around on the grass, which, because we have that trench for the rocks, we can just go ahead and rake it into that.
Okay.
That makes that easy. And then we're going to have to fill the bed because we have some extra space. So we'll take some compost and we'll bring it in and fill it in. Well, the soil's going to settle.
Yeah, it will definitely settle.
So we'll have to come back and put some more in to fill it back up again.
Okay. Looks good, man.
Yeah, we'll have to have Joe Ellen come in and plant the extra space here. And this is just, you know, this is block right now.
Yeah.
The way that the prices are, this is cheaper than wood. When we built the wood originally, the wood was cheaper. That's why we did it. So you just kind of have to shop around, see what there is,
Okay.
decide how you want to build it.
All right. Well, it definitely looks good. No doubt about that. So thank you much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
In your lawn, you see a lot of different types of weeds in your lawn. Right here, we have some Dallas grass in your lawn. We see this all the time in Bermuda grass, zoysia grass, and a lot of people want how to control that grass in your lawn. A lot of things you can do if you can go out there and pull it up. That'd be the best thing to do. Catch you a moist day when the soil after the rain, and go out to be easy to pull this out of the lawn. But then, if not, you want to use some kind of chemical to spray on there, some type of herbicide to spray on there. Quinclorax, MSMA. You can tell that if you still have some MSMA, to be good to use on this grass here to control that. But one of the things you might want to do is just make sure you read the label and tell you how much to spray on here. And all this is based on a healthy turf. If you have a real good healthy turf, you will see less weeds in your lawn in there. But one of the things to do is control this grass here early, and before you go to seed, you have less grass in your lawn for next year.
All right, Ms. Carol, I can't wait to hear this, okay? Planting misinformation. Okay? Where you want to start with that? I
Gotcha.
can't wait.
Well, I can be pretty vicious sometimes.
I know you can.
I was checking out somewhere
I know you
recently, and
can.
the girl behind the counter tried to sell me soil amendments
Uh-oh.
with my plants, and there were some old Hollywood junipers. And I was like, don't believe in them. So, I believe in improving soil, but from the top down, like Mother Nature does. If you dig a hole, they want you to dig a hole and mix the soil amendments in the hole and then plant in there. And actually what you're doing is creating a bucket of vastly different textured soil, which is going to fill up with water in wet times because the tight soil acts like a bucket.
Right.
And it's going to dry out faster during dry times. Plus, the roots don't really want to leave that little pampered area. They're like, oh, I don't want to go over in that
This
tight
is
soil.
nice.
I'll stay right here, which means it'll blow over easy and, again, be a challenge to keep it watered. So I just break up the native soil as little as possible to get it in there. And also, if I do need to improve my soil, and my house, you know, I just built a house in 2011, a lot of bulldozer work, so I really don't have a lot of good native soil. So I'm not saying never till in soil amendments. But if you do the whole area so that it can continue, because tree roots especially, they want to go out sideways, you know, really far. So the more you can help them do that, that's good.
Okay.
They like for you to add like hormones and root
Yeah.
stimulators to the hole. That no scientific research has shown that gives any benefit. It's just another product that they're trying to sell you over the counter.
Interesting. Okay.
Don't put any fertilizer in that hole.
I've heard that one too. Okay.
In fact, don't fertilize that plant for the first year. Woody plants, now annuals and vegetables, sure you do.
Sure.
That's a different thing. And you can till in all the stuff you want to there for that quick response.
Okay.
But for trees and shrubs, I don't recommend fertilizer for the first year because you have a challenge plant anyway. It's going through some shock. It's having to get real integrated into that new setting. And fertilizers are salty and they draw water from the roots. So you really don't want to be pushing the envelope with that and trying to give them a little bit more challenge. People want to do that when a plant's sick too. They like throw some fertilizer on. I tried fertilizing it and it hadn't responded. Well, you don't want a whole bunch of rich food when you're sick either. So don't do that to the plant. Just nurse it during droughty times. You know, try not to stress it. See if it can recover from whatever is going on.
Okay.
Anyway, another is container plants are always better than B&B. Of course, it turns out that container plants have their own set of problems, which is root girdling, which I was not a big believer in, and now I'm convinced. And now with these days of looking online and finding lots of good images, that you can find the coolest pictures of what circling roots can do. They actually wrap around, a lot of times, especially when they're planted too deep, and they will girdle that trunk so severely that it's just like you put a piece of steel twine or wire around it. It also makes them snap at that point too. So you got to be sure, if you are planting container plants, to get those roots teased out or saw through them with a serrated saw. Or B&B material, which if it's been properly grown is actually not good. All those roots are going to be going out into the soil like they're supposed to.
Let's go back again. So B&B stands for?
Ball and burlap. You dig up a root ball, you wrap it in burlap. Another myth was you could leave it on there because it'll rot.
I was just about to ask you that. So what about that one?
You do not. You take it off. If it rotted that fast, would you use it?
Right.
So, and also they don't even use real burlap these days. They have some kind of synthetic product that looks like burlap. You want those roots to get in touch with that soil as fast as you can. Take off the cage, take off the burlap, take off the wire. Do whatever you can to actually get naked roots in touch with the soil where it's going to be growing, and water in well, water in deeply.
Okay. Water in well, water in deeply.
Yes. Even if you have rain, if you have irrigation, that first soaking, you need to really get that root ball settled in and soaked. We used to hear B&B material could only be planted in the winter when it's dormant. But truth is, if it's been well handled, root pruned, wrapped in a good ball of burlap, there's a lot of good intact roots in that plant right there. You can certainly plant them year round, as long as you're willing to water, which is the same thing you had to do with container plants anyway. So that is another myth. They also used to tell you, be sure you don't let that root ball come apart. Keep that soil. Now they've discovered if you knock all that soil off and plant it, get it into contact with the soil where it's going to be growing, it'll actually grow off faster than the one that is kept in the original root ball.
Okay.
So somebody finally does research. If we got time for more, the idea that raw wood chips are always a bad idea for mulching established plants. It is a bad idea if you're tilling it in little baby plants. It's going to rob the nitrogen, and it can certainly deprive them of the nutrition they need for growth. But if you're just using raw wood chips to put on the top of the ground around well-established plants, it does not steal nitrogen. It does not. It's a perfectly good source and a good way to recycle things and help from hauling those kinds of things off to the landfill.
Okay.
Talking about fertilizer, people have misconceptions about fertilizer being good for plants and what types of fertilizer. Number one, most of our soils have plenty of P and K, so you usually don't have to add a lot of that. You really don't have to fertilize a woody plant at all. You really don't. We got plenty of nutrition in the soil. The plants out in the woods have done fine without anybody helping them out. We like to. We like to see that rich growth and push them along a little bit. People assume manure is always a good idea. It's a good organic source and it breaks down slow. Some plants don't like manure. And we discovered that the hard way because we thought, well, we grew up on a dairy farm and we switched over to being a blueberry orchard. We had put manure on everything. Blueberries don't like manure. It's too alkaline.
Yeah, right.
So and most of our ornamentals like an acid soil. Hollies, camellias, azaleas,
gardenias.
They do not like that alkaline soil. So don't make that assumption. Manure is always a good idea.
Does manure contain a lot of salt?
I don't know if it's salt, it's alkaline. I don't think I wouldn't think it would be a high salt thing at all. Companion plants, you hear that business all the time.
We get it all the time.
Companion plants, compost tea. I read somewhere, so why would you think a diluted product from compost would be better than actual compost? Makes no sense, does it? So, and they say it cures all ills. You can use it for, curing these diseases and that disease. True, a healthier plant might be able to resist some disease. I really like people to research. There's some good books out there, the truth about home remedies that you can read. Which ones actually work, because some do.
Okay.
But a lot of the myth about companion plants that repel mosquitoes.
Hit it all
I
the
watch
time.
them land. I watch a mosquito land right on that citronella leaf. Like, really?
All right, didn't do anything to it, huh?
No, but people swear by it because they didn't have mosquitoes that summer. Well, there was some other reason you didn't have mosquitoes that summer. It had nothing to do with your citronella plants.
That's what you see on the internet all the time.
Yes.
Recommended plants to repel mosquitoes. How about that?
Somebody said put a little mint in your house and the mice will scamper away. I'm like, really? So, yeah. We have to be careful about these things. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not.
It is.
Yeah.
Carol, that's some good stuff.
Okay.
I've been waiting for that. That's some real good stuff. Thank you much. All right.
Okay, it wasn't hard to tell that we had something feeding on our snap beans here. We've got holes in the leaves, and after we did just a very little investigation. We found the culprit. It's the Mexican bean beetle right here. It's the adult. Both the adults and the larvae create damage on snap bean, butter beans. They're one of the main pests. The adult can fly away and hide from you. The larvae are little yellow woolly critters, and they can't get away from you. See, they feed on the little bitty leaves, and when the leaves grow, the holes that they create grow also. One thing about almost any kind of beans, they can tolerate a lot of leaf-feeding injury without affecting the yield of the crop. So you probably don't have to treat right now. A reason to wait would be the hope that a beneficial insect will come along and eat these Mexican bean beetles, and you never build up a population, but you do need to keep a very close eye on them. And as soon as you start to see the larvae out here, then you would need to treat with carbaryl, bifenthrin, zeta cypermethrin, and gamma cyhalothrin are 4 insecticides that should take care of this problem.
All right, so here's our Q&A sessions. We have some good questions. Y'all ready?
Ready?
All right, here's our first viewer email. I have a raised garden that is approximately 6 feet by 10 feet. Is there a certain way to plant veggies to get more out of your space? This is Renee in Memphis, Tennessee. So Peter, 6 feet by 10 feet, but she wants to get the most out of that space. How does she do that?
Well, there's a couple things you can do.
Right.
So one thing that you can do is you can take anything that needs to climb, so beans, tomatoes, things like that, and angle them out away from the bed. And so that uses space in the air, but not over the bed. And so then you can get a little bit more in there. Now, the other thing to do, which is probably the better solution long term, is to start doing what's called square foot gardening.
There you go.
And
Thought
so
you might mention that.
yeah, so what you do is you basically divide your garden into 1 foot by 1 foot squares. You can do that with string or with little pieces of wood, or you can just imagine it. And then you densely plant within each of those 1 foot by 1 foot squares. So for instance, you can put 9 green bean plants in one of those squares, or only 1 tomato plant because it's a larger plant. Some plants require more than a square foot, so your larger cabbages might require 4 of those square feet. And so if you sit down and draw out on a piece of paper how you divide out your garden into the square feet, and then figure out what you're going to plant in each of those, and you can set it up so you have spring, summer, and fall in each square. And then figure out how the plants, for instance, if you're going to grow spinach in the spring in this spot, come June or July, that spot's available to grow something else. And so by really planting the garden well, you can get at least 2 crops out of every square, maybe 3.
That works.
works, yeah.
Square foot gardening. I would definitely do that. Do your homework ahead of time, though.
Yeah.
Get it sketched out pretty good.
Planning is
Anything
really
that?
good, yeah.
Yeah,
Planning
do that
is
ahead
really
of
good.
time.
Like you said, planning is another thing. Another thing, you don't want to put where your tall plant going to shade your other plants out. You need in there, so you need to have it on the right side. In there, so yeah. But planning is an important thing, like Peter said. Planning.
You got to plan
You got to
that
plan
thing
how you gonna do that, so you can get all that growing season out of that plot.
Right. And it will do you so much good.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah,
But this is a pretty good space, 6 feet by 10 feet.
Yeah, you can get a
Yeah, it's gonna get a lot
lot
in
of
there.
produce out of that.
It's going to get a lot of produce out of that. So thank you for that question, Renee. It's a good one. Here's our next viewer email. We grow tomatoes and peppers in 3 raised beds. This past autumn, I composted our leaves, oaks, maples, and 1 black walnut. I also dumped the walnuts and husk into the mix. The plan is to add the finished compost to the raised beds this fall for planting next spring. Will all the juggling be dissipated after 1 year of composting, or will it still hurt my vegetables? This is Eric from Pennsylvania. Great question here. Right? So we're talking about the juggling 1 year later after being composted.
Right. Well, I've never had to deal with black walnut in compost myself, so I did some research on this.
Okay.
And I believe it was University of Pennsylvania. They said that the juggalone is the biggest problem is the roots.
Right, it's the roots.
The leaves have a little bit, so you don't want to be taking black walnut leaves and spreading them around your tomato plants, your tomato plants being very sensitive. But after about 6 to 9 months of composting, including the husks, which are one of the higher places where you find the chemical has been broken down.
Right.
It's not really a problem. So yeah, if you put it in this last fall, and then this coming fall, you're going to put it on your beds for planting next spring. That's 18 months. You should be fine.
Should be fine after 18 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the higher concentrations of juglin is found in the roots and in the holes, right? Only little concentrations are found in the leaves. Right. So it should be okay, Bookerman. Think so?
But in that compost pile and everything, and heat it up to the right temperature and everything, and you turn it, it should be okay. I think the juglin should be no problem.
Yeah, it should be fine because, something else too. Once the toxins, are pretty much reduced. So those toxins are reduced when they're exposed to water and when they're exposed to air and good organic material.
Yeah.
Right.
It been compost.
That's gonna happen. Over this time that we're talking about here. So I think it'll be fine.
I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So thank you for that question, Eric. It's a good one. All right, Peter Booker, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I enjoyed that.
Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you want to see how we built the original wooden raised beds or planted the butterfly garden in the bed we fixed today, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.